So today we are going to talk about the Software Engineering 1, Lecture 4, what are the requirements? In this week, we are going to talk about the different types of requirement and the techniques for describing system requirements, and to explain how software requirements may be organized for a requirement document. The requirements engineering activities and their relationship. Activities and relationships, techniques for requirement elicitation and analyze, requirement validations and the role of the requirement reviews, requirement validations, which is mainly from getting some verification from customers, and requirement management, where the manage this engineering design process. So today we are going to talk about what are the software engineering requirements. So we are going to define actually three main dimensions. The first main dimension is whether we're going to introduce three main dimensions in describing the software engineering requirements. So first one is whether it's functional or non-functional. The second one is from his user. Is it the user, or is it more specific system requirement, or the specification mainly for users, and the specification is for the developers. The system requirement is for clinics, and the user requirement is for user. The domain specific is the third dimension, where every business needs to consider this maybe requirement, and what and why. So firstly, we are going to talk about why do we need a requirement. So why do we need the requirements? We need to ensure the software solution is currently solve a particular problem. We must initially fully understand the problem need to be solved. We need to understand the problem and to be solved, discover why the problem needs to be solved, and determine who should be involved. And poorly defined requirement may cause major problems to project. Poorly defined requirement can cause major problems to a project in both financial terms and added time. There are specific requirements we may use in requirement engineering, which shall be some specific techniques. So, additionally, we are going to talk about what are the requirements. So, the requirement this is very important. It's a process of establishing the services that the customer requires and from a system, and the constraints and which is operation is developed. So the main takeaway is that it's the services which is analyzed to the functional, and the constraint here is mainly to describe non-functional. So you take the main takeaway here. The software engineering is the process of establishing the services from the system and the constraint and which is developed. The system the services which the system develop the custom the services where the customer need from a system, and the constraint where the system have. And the requirement is actually a description of the system services. It's the description of the system services and constraints. It's the description of the system services and constraints that are generated during the requirement. The system services and constraints. It's the description of the system service and constraints. So what are the requirements? The requirements are it may range from a higher level abstractions. It may range from a higher level abstractions and comes to service of system constraints are detailed mathematical form. It can be high level or can be detailed. It can be a high level abstraction. It can be a detailed mathematical expression, and it is invertible as it serves a dual function. It may be the basis of a bid for a contract, therefore it must be open for for interpretations, and may be the basis of the contract itself, therefore must be defined in detail. Both of these statements may call the this is inevitable as may serve the okay. So it may not only serve the maybe the serves for the contract, and it also be the basis of contract itself. Okay, cool. So it has double function. That's very interesting. And then we are going to talk about the examples of the requirement iteration. So for example, the first iteration 1, we are going to say that it is support a range of commonly used graphics, and then the system may support the following. This is the second iteration. We need to following formats. The second one is the system may support the following formats, maybe with the maximum resolution. And then we are going to see with not only with the max resolution pixels, we also have a maximum file size of 20 megabytes, and it can be easily extendable using the plugins. So what are the types of requirements? We have the user requirement. We have 3 types of requirement, which is user development requirements, the software system requirements, and the software specifications. The user development is a kind of natural language plus diagram of the services, and it is written for customer. Just remember that user requirement is for customer. We need to build a spell and check document. And the system requirement is for clients or contractors, which is kind of business, business analyze, that kind of medium level. And business analysis is also a STEAM subject, and maybe we can say that it is written for some professionals with bachelor degrees, structured document setting out the detailed description of the system services. And the system needs to be maybe able to check the spelling document, provide the auto-correct facilities. There will be support for the following language: English, French, German. System will have plugin support for other language. Yes. And then we are going to talk about software specification, where it's mainly about for developers. For example, the words are defined in the Unicode, the dictionary structure are defined in this kind of version. The check results are defined here, which contain the flag if a word has been found, plus a vector object containing the possible other word suggestions depending on the word has been found or not. And the spell check is actually how to use some software project to build this function. And who needs the requirements? We have just to say that there are 3 main contents: user requirement, the system requirement, and software design specification. For example, the client manager and the system end user, the contract manager and system architect. So you can see that all the client manager the user is just a client, right? And the end user, this is also user. And the contract manager shows twice. The contract manager, it's very interesting that why the contract manager. I think the contract manager should see the system requirement. Contract manager. Contractor manager. Maybe I will see more why we need the contract manager for. Why we need the contract manager? Why we need the contract manager? How to say copy? And then I will send the email to the professor about this issue. That why do we need Thomas? Let's see, we place it. Why system requirements? Why contract manager, C, user requirement. So we have sent it to him, and we can see and then we can see I think this possibly has also the system requirement, and I need to clarify them. The system architect is just based on these requirements to build a specific in Chinese we call them 构架师. We can build some building blocks for the whole system. And then this is, I think, is called 中台, where we need to system and users what kind of things we can do. Client engineers that how do we usually deal with this? How do we usually deal with the client? And then the system architects need to transform. This is mainly. This I think is mainly the system. This is mainly the technical person. So the technical person needs to, I think all this information here, requirements, need to go to this most important system architect. Yeah, I think all these people need to go to the system architect, and system architect going to tell the system end user system. So what is the system end users? System end users. System end users. System requirement. Yeah. I think it should be exposed to them, just like and the client, the system end users. Is it the normal users for? Is it the normal users? The system end users. So the system end users. I'm not very sure. I should copy and send it to Thomas, where the Thomas placed as the system end user, normal user. Okay, cool. Let's go. Let's assume it is just the normal users. I think their opinions must be also very important. So for when defining the system requirement, it's much more specific, and then we come to the subject mainly about you can see that the system architect should be not only in the front but also just like you are building you are an architect in the real world. You need not only build from scratch, from the solid work, and we need also go to the real world scenario to see how does it actually implement that. And then we come to the functional requirement, where the functional requirements, which is another dimension. This is, we have introduced the first dimension, which is who going to see the requirement, and the second dimension is whether it is functional or non-functional. So the statement of services, the functional requirement may be higher level statement that what the system should do, but the functional requirement should not describe services in detail what it should do. I just want to make an analogy from the previous one, where we can see that we need to the services. What is just like very high level services. The services here is higher level, and it is functional. The constraint is lower level, and it is the non-functional. This is the analogy. And then we come to the functional requirement examples. Let's say that all users need to use the user ID and passport, and we shall support the following document: PDF, Microsoft, and shall support the following formats. Following, yeah, but should. Okay. Oh, sorry. I really made a mistake. That this functional development, it is not only of what, but functional requirements should describe. The functional development should be in detail. This is very important. So let's go back to see the wrong thing that I made. That the functional, it can be this one is actually, it can be, but it has high level, and it's I know it's high level, but functional is the functional must to be in detailed, and must in detail. It can be higher level, but must include detail. Okay. Yeah. Or it cannot be the function explicit, right? And non-functional can be non-functional must be more detailed. I think so. Non-functional, I think the non-functional more detail about the constraint. I think it's, but I think services is higher IO. This is services, and this is the functional, and this is the non-functional. I think this is much more clear. You can see that we can see that this is the services, this is the functional, this is the non-functional, this is the detailed, more detailed, higher. So this is how things should work. Okay. So then we come to the non-functional requirement. Non-functional requirement is that non-functional requirement constraint on the service functions offered by the system, such as the timing constraints and the constraint on the different process and standard. Usually, it's defined in the system as a whole, and the process requirement may be to be specified, mandating a particular case, system, programming language, design method. Non-functional requirements may be more critical. Process requirement. Process requirement. Process requirement may be specified and mandating a particular case. Process requirement may also be specified mandating a particular case, system, programming language, or development method. Non-functional requirement may be critical, may be more critical than this is the building block. And Process requirement may also be specified, mandating a particular case. Process requirement so may also be mandating a particular case system. Programming language. Process requirements. Oh, I see. So the non-functional requirement can mandating mandating. Let's see what does it mean. Okay, mandating. So let's think this one should be how to say how to say mandate. Okay, cool. Let's see what should this mandate. An official order or commission to do something. Authority carry out an official order. It's an official order commission. An authority to carry out. Okay, so it's something much more official. Okay. Mandating a particular. It's just like regulating a particular case system. Programming language. Okay. It's just like the consensus within the group about what kind of process requirement. Yeah, just like we are wearing the same kind of T-shirt or something like that. And non-functional classifications may comes from the product requirement. The non-functional classifications may come from the product requirement, organizational requirement, and the external requirement. And the product requirement may be the when to deliver must have a particular way, maybe the speed and reliability. The organization is the sequential of the organizational policies and procedures. The consequence of an organizational policies and procedures. External requirements which are external to the system and its development process. It's just like the must come from the FIPS. So logistic, it's just a data protection logistic, and the organizational is that we are in a company or some kind of in company, and product is that we must have that kind of standard product. And then when it comes to the non-functional requirement, we also talk about the same one, this organizational. There are other examples. For example, everyone should the encryption should use maybe advanced encryption standard, and the organizational maybe we are going to coding the standard in our maybe Huawei's company has a coding standard like that, and the external requirement is that system shall not disclose any personal information about the customer apart from the name and reference number to the operators in the system. The performance requirement, the system should respond to the user's request to the information in less than 0.1 seconds in the peak time. Some performance is kind of the product requirement. So the domain requirement is another specific one where we need some business, and an example of domain may be some information system, data protection act, and secondary process data. Yeah, some kind of yeah. This is national health insurance. It have some will have some thing like that. And then we're going to talk about the domain specific. Going to have two main problems, which is the understandability that some program does not know some things talked in the doctors and explicit with some does not know some words understand their maybe with the common sense within this domain, but is not very explicit for our programmers. And the user requirement should describe the functional and non-functional requirements so that they are understandable by the system users who not have the technical knowledge. So it should be functional and non-functional. User requirement have detailed user language, tables, diagrams, in order that non-technical clinicians can user requirement communicate with a natural language. And the goals and the requirements is that the non-functional requirement may be very difficult to state explicitly, and there are two kinds of maybe non-functional requirements. One is this, why it can be very hard to explicitly state them, and one is can be objective tested. Maybe it's the time and this goal is the general intention of the user, such as either use is helpful for developers. They convey the intention for system users. For example, the example system goal system should be easy to use by experienced controllers and should be organized in a way such that user errors are minimized. Experienced controller shall be able to use all the system functions after a total 2 hours of training. Yeah, it's just like whether they can use it or not. We can have some kind of the requirement measures that the speed, we can change maybe the process transaction time, user response time, the size, maybe gigabytes, number of the IM chips, the ease of use is that the training time and the number of help frames, the reliability is the mean time of the failure, the mean time to the failure. The robustness is that the time to restart after failure. Probability means the percentage of target system depend on statement and number of target system. The requirement interaction is that conflicts between non-functional are common in complex systems. We should all passwords hard to guess are ideal for upper cases, so we should balance them. And a quick summary recap is that requirements set out what the system should do and define the constraints on its operational and implementation. Requirement set out should be define the constraints on his operational implementation. Functional requirements set out the services the system should provide. Non-functional requirements constrain the system being developed or the development process. User requirements are higher level statements in which what the system should do. User requirement higher level. Non-functional requirement constraints the detailed how the functional services. Non-functional is constraints. Requirements of the system should define the constraints constraints. Requirement of the system should define the constraints. And this is a function and